feet under the ground. It's sort of extraordinary.
Yeah, that does come across in on stage. I think that claustrophobia and the idea that we're used to thinking of the trench warfare and this endless slaughter as being a kind of hell, but there was actually a sort of another inferno underneath the ground where people were slowly advancing. There were people fighting in some cases hand to hand.
It was very it was very clandestine.
Yeah, in tunnels you couldn't stand up in. I mean, these were not all soldiers. Most of them were professional miners, either coal miners or people who'd helped to dig out the London Underground. Yeah. So you think about that really? Next time you're on the Central Line, this may have been dug out by someone who was on the Somme later.
That's really interesting. I actually went to the London Transport Museum recently, where there's a big exhibit about the people who dug out the London Underground. Nobody died digging out the London Underground. Do you know that?
I didn't know that.
Quite amazing. It's quite an incredible fact, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Given most of it was done in the 19th century. Yeah. You've talked, Stephen, when you were watching this thing unfold and come together, you've talked about having mixed emotions of seeing your book, Birdsong, reborn as a play, and that when you went to the rehearsals, you said it wasn't easy to see these fictional characters that you'd imagine made flesh and blood. Why was it emotionally difficult watching that?
I think there's just a sense partly of sort of embarrassment and of being so close to, and this was in a rehearsal room where people weren't in costume, and seeing just the immense effort that the actors had put in, people crying just standing a few feet away from you. And of course it's very sort of flattering, and that people of Ben's ability should spend so much time and effort on recreating these fictional characters, but also it was a very strange, disorientating feeling, because part of you wanted to say, hang on, it's only a story, I just invented Stephen and Isabel and Jack and so on. But of course on the other hand, a part of you knows that the historical setting, the events that you've put them into, were very far from invented.
That's the thing that strikes me about it as well, is it's not really fiction, is it? It's based on a reality, and we know it happened, and we know that there were millions of people like Stephen, and that's why books like this and plays like this are more effective than any horror you will ever watch, because horror isn't real and this is.
But I think it is the individual stories and the emotional responses to the specific scenarios that the characters find themselves in, the lost love of Stephen, and the sort of desolation and the fact that he has no hope of regaining this love, and Lee Ross's character Jack Firebrace at the end, when he's so desperate for this son that has died, and he can't remember the faces of his children and his mother and his wife, sorry. And that's the thing which is entirely gut-wrenching about the story. It's not so much the statistics of the death toll. It's not the 20,000 who got cut down in the first. It's not the 60,000 who were injured on the day of the Somme. It's the individual stories, as it always is. But that is the fictional part, and that is the really powerful and moving thing about the story.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. You talk, Stephen, as well about I read an interview where it said within the play, the characters are kind of haunted by ghosts of their imagination as people lay dying. And I think you talked about, if you like, a younger version of yourself was looking over you. The 1993 version of you that wrote the book was kind of on your shoulder as you watched this play come together 17 years later.
Yes, I suppose it made me see it through fresh eyes, watching the actors go through it. And of course I remembered, it was quite a long time ago I wrote it. My parents were still alive, and I remember their response to the book and so on. But the book is really a lot about sons. It's not about children. We had one small boy at that time, and it's 10 million sons died, 20 million parents, to say nothing of wives, brothers, sisters, girlfriends. So it was a powerful thing to revisit.
Did I just call you Stephen then?
Yeah, well, we weren't sure if talking to Ben, who plays Stephen.
No, I know, that's confusing, isn't it?
We were a bit confused.
No, I thought I'd said that, and then I thought maybe I didn't say that. I'm not that stupid, but it turns out I am. I'm now addressing you as a fictional character.
You're completely involved.
Yeah.
You're still there. You're living
That's exactly it. This has nearly been made. It's nearly been made to a film 5 times. You've auditioned for the part yourself, Ben. Sebastian. This is not got your name right. This hasn't happened as a movie. The fact that it's now been demonstrated it can work in sort of 2.5-3 hour form on the stage, does it make a film more likely now?
I don't really know. I mean, there's again, you talk about the difference between novel and play. There's another difference between play and film. Largely, it's financial, but secondly, it's also a question of getting so many balls up in the air at the same time in a film. The right actors, the right script. The screenplay has been very, very
just use
evasive.
these guys. They're all there, ready to go. You've got a screenplay. It's a script for the play.
Well, it would take a bit of tweaking, because the thing is, you wouldn't just have to suggest the Battle of the Somme, you'd actually film it. Mind you, we could probably knock that out between us, couldn't we?
We could probably give it a crack, but it's very specific art writing for the theatre, and you can use the sort of diarist style and the sort of narration which you have to show, not tell on television or in a film.
I hope when this film eventually happens, you don't have to audition for it.
It'd be lovely, wouldn't it, not to have to?
He might be too old by then. He might have played the Colonel.
Well, yeah, it's already taken 17 years.
I'm Dorian Gray. I shall remain 20 for as long as you need me to.
Listen, guys, thank you so much. Sebastian, I loved your James Bond, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
And you decided to write deliberately, so it was called Devil May Care, wasn't it?
It was.
You wrote deliberately like Ian Fleming, I think.
Yeah, the idea was it was to be like a birthday present. It was his centenary, and this was like a little tribute from me and all the internal schoolboys of whatever age who've loved his films and fun all through the years. So I didn't really want to write a sort of heavy metal, modern sort of psychopathic drama. I wanted to write a light, stylish 1960s thing, such as he might have written had he lived.
And you did, and I thought it was great.
Thank you. Well, it was fun and funnier.
Maybe that should be made into a film.
Yeah, there you're entering into even more complex territory, because MGM, the studio's gone broke, and the Flemings and the Broccolis, who has the rights, that's a whole other hornet's nest.
Did you went to the Broccolis first of all, did you, and say, they have to give you permission to write a book?
No, the Flemings, the Fleming family owns the
so you had their blessing, but it's nothing to do with the Broccolis.
No.
Did you think that when you wrote it? Because I read it and I thought I could see this as a James Bond film. I could see this being made into a film.
Well, in the back of my mind was the possibility, I have to admit. But I think if you're writing a book, you have to just keep your eye on one thing at a time. Otherwise, if you write scenes which you think are cinematic in inverted commas, you lose the power of the book. So I'd be lying if I said in the back of my mind I didn't think, that'd be a good film sequence. But, I didn't write it for the pictures.
Any young actors you've met recently, Sebastian, who you would think of as maybe a future Bond?
Well, I think, Craig's looking a bit worn around the edges, really.
Listen, guys, thank you so much. Chronicles of Narnia, when is part 3 of the Chronicles of Narnia out?
December the 9th, I think.
Is it?
10th.
We also found some audio earlier of you that you might like to hear. Because if I'm not mistaken, you were briefly in a boy band.
Well, looking forward to this.
Did you know about this, Sebastian?
No. For about 2 minutes, I was.
2 minutes?
But we did one song once. That was it.
Well, but
it was a 2-minute single.
It was 2.5 minutes I was in that band for.
Well, look, you're all over YouTube.
It's all the same thing, because we only did one thing, and the next morning I rang up and said I'm never doing that again. I'm really sorry. It was really embarrassing.
What was the band called again?
I can't remember.
You can.
Oh, come on. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
It was just too embarrassing. I had to block the whole experience.
Ben, what was the band called?
Excuse me?
What was the band called?
It was called High Rise.
High Rise. Here's a little clip of High Rise.
Oh, how dare you.
There we go. There's High Rise. There's High Rise. Starring Ben Bart. What was your role within High Rise? Do you have a lead singer in a boy band, or are you just all 4 singers?
I don't know anything about boy bands apart from that one that I was in for 2.5 minutes. It's such a shame, because I've done so many interesting sort of musical projects in my life to do with sort of acting and things, and that is the only one that everyone's ever managed to discover.
I admired your top notes, I must say. I didn't really get that high. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Spelled H-Y, I think. High Rise, yeah?
The misspelling was the cause of many a grievance and a panic from me about a week before.
In Birdsong, he's very butch and deep, though. He's
very
all
butch and deep. Yeah. Fake moustache and everything.
Yeah.
I'm doing more singing in April.
Are you? In what?
I did a film called Killing Bono.
Oh, yes, I read about this.
Yeah, and I'm singing all sorts of dodgy 80s punk rock, all sorts of extra things you can scupper with me with recordings of next time I come in.
Okay, sounds good. This is about a guy who was at school with Bono and thought he'd be...
Neil McCormick, the journalist who went to school with Bono, yeah.
Great, listen, we look forward to that. Ben, thank you so much. Good luck with the rest of the play. It's running till January, is it?
Mid-January.
January the 15th.
The Comedy Theatre. Do they regret calling that theatre the Comedy Theatre? That seems like a mistake to me.
I don't know. The taxi driver who picked me up after the first night said, "Well, Reggie, but I like your book, but I don't know how you get a comedy out of it." And I said, "It isn't. It's just in the Comedy Theatre."
But when they named the theatre, why would you say, "Let's just limit this to one genre"?
Presumably that's what it was when it began. I don't know. They were going to change it at one point to the Pinter Theatre. They were going to rename it after Harold Pinter.
Was it sort of vaudevillian when it started? Presumably?
I guess it was.
Do you think anyone's gone to Birdsong expecting it to be a comedy?
Well, maybe the taxi driver who he would have done, but they couldn't get it to change to the Pinter Theatre because Pinter wouldn't allow it. And then Simon Gray suggested to Harold it would be easier if he changed his name to Harold Comedy, and that didn't go down very well either.
So it's on until mid-January. I would urge you to go and see Birdsong, starring Ben Barnes and Sebastian Faulks. Thank you very much as well.
Thank you.
It is 3:20. We'll talk about George W. Bush in a moment. Lindsay Hipgrave, what's happening out there?
The M6 still looking slow southbound from junction 11A down to junction 7. That's the M6 toll towards Great Bar, and northbound from 5 to 10 Castle Bromwich up to Walsall. Just very busy on the M6, but also bad weather slowing things down a little more than usual. The M1 also, that's queuing southbound between junction 12 at Flitwick